Oh, we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. How are your sessions? I'm hoping they were fantastic. I want to make sure everyone is on a good page right now, feeling like they've learned a lot of knowledge. They got to know some people. I hope you guys are networking, making sure that you're going over to the expo booths. I just need to make a confession here. I really hope you guys can hear me because I don't like talking to myself. I went to Gracie's clothing clothing line expo, her virtual booth, and let me tell you, I might be buying a couple pairs of shoes because, it's quarantine and I need to feel pretty around my house. So just give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me to make sure that there's no technical issues. Are you good? A little bit of help would be great. Anybody? Anybody? Just start typing in the chat would be great. Just talking to myself. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Gracie. I appreciate that. All right, so yes, thank you, chat. All right, great. So I'm glad I'm not talking to myself, and if I was, it'd just be a normal Saturday. All right, folks, so the next presenter is me. So what we're gonna be talking about today is tactical tips and practical takeaways in networking. So I can see your chats, and I'm pretty good at kind of multitasking here, so throw your questions into the chat function. But this is kind of more workshop-y than me just kind of talking and telling my story. So if you have a pen and paper, please make sure to grab that, or if you can type out notes, go for it. I will also send out and give Gracie a really good downloadable, so it kind of breaks down a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. I'm going to not share slides because this is more fun, and that way you guys aren't, confused and, death by PowerPoint. We don't want that. We're going to keep things moving along. So again, we're going to talk about networking virtually and how to do these things tactically. So I want to make it very clear that networking, as far as what you guys know, is true. The most important thing about networking is building relationships. I understand what that means, and that's something that people talk about all the time. What we're going to go through today is the tangible activities that breed the results of building a network. So going from offsite to online networking specifically. So what we're doing today is there's a couple, everyone got a chance to know my bio, which is very aggressive and it's a little scary sometimes, but I'm going to give you some fun facts about me because these are fun and these are funny and these are, the way that my presentation goes is typically where you guys will probably laugh most of the time because that's just my style, but let's do some self-deprecation. What do you think? Okay, so again, I'm originally from North Jersey, which is why I talk very fast. I do a lot of stuff with my hands. I'm a fast talker, again, a fast talker, but just so you know, New Jersey has the best bagels because the Jews and the Italians, they come from New York and they kind of pop right into North Jersey and they boil their bagels and not bake them. So just so you know, we kind of have the best bagels. I have no kids, but a very, very fat cat. So if you hear a small child crying outside of the door, it's because that cat is there. He wants a second breakfast. Michael, stop being rude about Jersey. I think that it's amazing. Anyway, my background, I was previously a celebrity personal assistant, which just means it's just like the devil wears Prada, and I have a lot of therapy bills. I've competed in CrossFit competitions, which means I can deadlift 225 pounds 3 years ago, and I came in 31st place out of 34 in a competition, which just means I survived it. Karaoke Champ 2016, which is where tequila was involved. I've been in 12 movies as an extra, which just means that I was working for a model and talent agency, and I wasn't the model or the talent. I was working in the office, and they put me on movie sets, so I got a chance to learn all about that jazz. And I once ate a Carolina Reaper in the comments. Because anybody tell me what a Carolina Reaper is? I will totally wait because it is awful. You guys know what a Carolina Reaper is? If you don't know what that is, it's the hottest pepper almost in the world, and I was dared to do it, and so clearly I had to do it because that's a good story, and apparently I hate my life. So, all right, today what we're going to talk about is the agenda. We're going to go through the reality of networking. We're going to go steps to get started. We're going to know yourself, how to know yourself, and then how to know your audience, planning your work and working your plan, tools and resources, and then questions on how I can help. I have about 10 minutes. I'm going to fly through this stuff. So here's the really big problem with people right now, is that everything's a little bit shifted and changed because of the pandemic. So, and I'm saying problem with people because people sometimes bother me, but that's okay, that's just my own thing. But here's what the norm is right now. You know, non-essential workers are operating virtually. You know, some people really not understanding and kind of not really leaning into the technology phase of how, you know, we're trying to communicate with one another, and then wondering if it's appropriate right now to reach out to people. It has shifted since the beginning of the pandemic, but as you're networking and trying to build and connect and maintain those relationships, in the beginning it was a little hard to figure out, okay, do I reach out to this person? Do I check in? When's it appropriate to check in? So there's a lot of things, a lot of balls up in the air. And so you kind of feel like you're juggling time and you're juggling the activity. And then figuring out, like, do I wear pants on a Zoom call? Like, do I shower before I talk to this person? So it's just a lot of, you know, confusing things. What I want to make very clear is that, you know, the kinds of people that you want to keep in your circle that help grow your business, here's the reality of who those people should be. Only people, and just as a reminder, because you and your time is valuable, only people who genuinely care are going to want to talk to you, okay? Only people who genuinely care are going to help you anyway. And only people who genuinely care are going to ask you for realistic favors. They're not going to call you up and say, hey, do you mind dropping $5 grand on the sponsorship because we've spoken twice and you told me you liked dogs. That's not how that works. Building relationships means that you're building something called the know, the like, and the trust factor. People need to know you, need to like you, and then they need to trust you. So one of the things I also want to make, you know, very apparent is that there are a maximum number of people that we can maintain relationships with in our lifetime and social interactions with. That number is 150 people. Some of you people are saying, I like 4 people, maybe. Maybe my cat is also somebody on that list. But in like science, I promise I will cite my sources the next time I do this. But there's an article that, you know, from British anthropologist, his name was Robin Dunbar. And according to his theory, the tightest circle has just 5 people. These are your loved ones. Then that's followed by a successive layer of 15 good friends, 50 friends, and then 150 meaningful connections, 500 acquaintances, and 1,500 people that you can recognize. So people will migrate in and out of these layers, but the idea is that the space has to be carved out for anybody to come into those slots. So if you exceed 150, a network is unlikely to last or even cohere well. So what does that mean? You really, really, really want to take the pressure off. You do not want to have to meet and feel like you have to maintain 10,000 LinkedIn connections. You don't feel like you have to maintain more than 150 people that you can build meaningful relationships with, because science tells you that that's really only the number that humans can handle. So we're gonna go through a story time here, okay? So story time means that, you know what, we're gonna skip that because I have 5 minutes. So here are the top 3 people that you should be networking with. Strategic partners. These are people that are professionals who are in complementary businesses who share the same target market. So think of a real estate agent and a divorce lawyer, right? Those people are fantastic strategic partners because they share the same target market. They share the same kind of client. Second groups of people that you want to be networking with are subject matter experts. We either have an abundance of time or not enough time. So those people are the ones that you want to help you grow your visual and your perspective on your industry, because they are specifically involved in that area and that can educate you on expanding your knowledge on your industry and on that topic. The third one is your current network. Your current network, I guarantee somebody in this group has about 50 business cards on their desk right now that they haven't touched. My suggestion would be throw those away, because you haven't built any kind of relationship. You've done nothing with these cards, and these people, unless you've spoken to them recently or you've connected with them on LinkedIn and you've shared their stuff, you haven't done anything to earn that relationship. Throw them out. So How to communicate effectively. We're going to skip that because, you know, I've got about 5 minutes and I don't talk fast enough apparently. Here are some pro tips when it comes to networking virtually, okay? One of the things, if anybody can, and I can put this in the chat, but something's called the $80 method, and I'm talking specifically on LinkedIn. When you're networking with the strategic partners, the current network, and the subject matter experts, you really want to position yourself as somebody who's a thought leader in your industry for people to take you seriously and give you validity. So here are some pro tips that I think you really need to pay attention to. So when you guys are trying to build up new connections authentically and genuinely, you want to follow about 10 hashtags on LinkedIn that are specific to your industry. You will get notified when those hashtags are trending, and you want to go to those posts and you want to comment thoughtfully and specifically and intentionally on those posts. You'll start conversations, you'll build engagement, you'll gain new connections, which opens the door up for a 15-minute intro call with that person. The second is, you know, you really, again, you want to comment thoughtfully. This process, keep going through my Q&A. Thanks, Gracie. This process is important to recognize that people are idiots. Most people are idiots. So they haven't taken this course or have jumped onto this conference. They don't really know the benefit of giving first before asking for anything. So if you are responsible for, let's put it this way, you're responsible for following up with people. Ending a message with leaving it up in the air is no longer acceptable. Okay, so let's maybe put this into a different perspective. If you end your messages, people you've connected with, connections you've made with, let me know if you'd like to chat or how can I help you? What you're really saying is, I did not take the time to think through what I can do for you, nor what you can do for me. I know you guys all network here effectively, but let's bump it up a notch as far as being intentional. So I'm going to repeat that. You are responsible for following up. Do not, from now on, end messages with a throwaway line, okay? Which would be, let me know if you'd like to chat, or, you know, how can I help you? That's really saying, I did not take time to think through what I can do for you, nor what you can do for me. Also, it's extremely important to recognize, or at least my biggest pet peeve is someone says, hey, just go through my LinkedIn connections and find somebody that you think you'd like an introduction to. I understand the value in that, I do. My challenge is that you don't know your network well enough to make an introduction after I've given you a list of industries that I really would like introductions to. For somebody who is, again, I network for a living, and so I don't have everybody in the back of my head, you know, ready to go. What I do have is a full list of strategic partners that I've built the know, like, and trust factor for. If someone's asking me for, like, hey, I'm looking for a cloud server that does something that's over my head, I'm going into my list and I'm doing a Control F and typing in those buzzwords and pulling up, like, oh, that's right, Bobby does this. He's, you know, I know he does IT services, but it specializes in cloud services. Let me make that introduction for you, no problem. So it's important to recognize that if you're going to take your networking to the next step, be more intentional about that. Also, right now, everything's professional and personal because the pandemic has affected us all. So again, things may be more personal right now, and that's okay. So this means you're going to have a chance to share the conversations that are more candid and vulnerable. And that is what makes us human. So at the core of networking, you are sharing experiences and sharing stories and sharing information with another human being. Take the pressure off to sell shit because nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares what you do. Nobody cares. What they care about, especially right now, is how you make them feel, how you can help them with resources or tools or even share some kind of knowledge. Again, it's important to recognize that the pandemic is a great time for us to network because we all have a commonality and we've all have some kind of resources that we've figured out that we can also share with other people. Also, the number 4, so the first pro tips was follow hashtags. 2, everyone's an idiot. 3, you know, the difference between professional and personal. And then 4, avoid one-time reach outs, okay? How many times do we go to coffee and we're sitting there going, okay, this was either a waste of time or I've been doing this all day long and I didn't feel like I gave enough to the person I spoke with, or the conversation didn't really move by, you know, in the way that I had hoped or the agenda that I had provided. So you really want to avoid like one-time reach outs and, you know, or AKA like virtual coffee dates. The reason why, because just going on as many coffee dates in person, it's not the best use of your time. So the same is true of going on a bunch of one-time virtual coffee dates. Make key virtual check-ins recurring, so that you're able to get in touch with people repeatedly throughout this pandemic experience. Just as for an in-person coffee, you really want to be sure to execute on follow-up on any homework items from the conversation. If you are not taking notes in the conversation that you're having, that you have the privilege to have with another human being to see how you can help them, do not call yourself a networker. Do not call yourself like, I'm a power networker. No, you're not. No, you're not. What you're doing is you're letting somebody just vomit words at you. If you are not providing value in a way and helping and providing resources without asking for anything in return, then it's not a good use of your time, and it's also not a good use of their time. Your goal as a business owner is to build your business. Your goal as a networker is to provide value and help where you can. So if you want to amplify your networking activity, you want to be more intentional about the resources and the activity that you possess. So the last thing we're going to go through into, thank you, Patty. Patty also, by the way, came up with a fantastic, I'm actually going to use my time for this, Miss Patty. Miss Patty and I jumped on a networking like face-to-face before this conversation happened. And she mentioned that in her meetings, what she does is that if she knows somebody that she's trying to make the introduction to this person that she just met, she will bring that person to the introduction meeting. So what she'll do is she'll amplify it to the next level and say, hey, if there's somebody that I can make an introduction to, if I know them off the top of my head, I'd like to introduce you guys face to face. Let me see if I can coordinate that. That's a next level shit. Like, that's impressive. So remember, like, as much as I'm a subject matter expert in networking, like, that in itself is brilliant. It's brilliant and so personal. So I implore you guys to also network with people in your industry who may have different ideas and different perspectives. Like, I work with Bryn Tillman, who's a subject matter expert in LinkedIn. Like, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I know the best practices, and I know it works for my business, and I try to educate my clients in that as well. Do I say an SME in LinkedIn? Absolutely not. I will lose business and go to Bryn because she's the best option for my client. So just recognize that the people that you're networking with do not have to be somebody that you can gain anything from, but gain different perspective in different industries and even within your own industry. So expand on that. How much time do I have? Q&A session 12:05 to 12:10. All right, I got 2 minutes. I got one more slide. It's the deep, meaningful business conversation questions. Okay, so when you're in a networking conversation, I think I'm going to pass out. I've been just talking so fast. I'm sweating. Okay, so the last bit, we're going to talk about deep, meaningful business conversation questions. These are questions that you should be asking and also being able to answer in a networking conversation. This allows you to get to know the people more in depth about their business, and then it will also trigger conversation to remind you of who in your network that you can make an introduction to or a referral to. So it's really important that you pay attention and also be able to answer these questions, which are on the downloadable that you will get later. So if you can't catch up with my fast talking, then you'll have some paperwork later. Deep, meaningful business conversation questions. Here are my top 3. When somebody picks up the phone to call you, what problem are they having? This will identify key trigger points about how you can ask. This will allow you to understand the fix, which is it's so common for people to kind of say a script of what they do, but not what problem that they fix. So use that line. That helps me a lot, especially if I'm having a little trouble understanding their niche and like what actual issues they're fixing. That's a really good one to do. The other one is what industry do you find the most success in? If they say all industries, I will punch you in the throat. No, you can't work with all industries. You're gonna have, you can't, because if you did, you'd be a millionaire and then you wouldn't be talking to me. Like, everybody has a niche, they should have personas in their business plan. So what industries do they find the most success in? Doesn't mean that you can't work with everybody, it just means that you have a success rate that's different. And if you don't know that answer for your own business, start doing some digging and auditing your clients. The other one is, how do you educate your audience? Okay, this one's going to be challenging for a lot of people to answer because, again, if you're not educating your audience, that's the kind of marketing you should be doing for your business. How do you educate your audience on the topic or problem that you fix? If you cannot answer that, think long and hard. Do some Reiki exercises from Sherry and ask how you can educate your audience in an effective way to provide value on certain issues that you know that you can fix. So it's more of providing a marketing verbiage that shows people what you can accomplish without actually telling them what services you offer. Because by the time they get to you, they understand that dynamic. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to go to the questions. You guys can post your question is in here. I'm going to pass out. Thank you very much. I am a fast talking auctioneer. I actually sell socks on the weekend, and you know, those are just my last gems. Okay, Michael, not sure I agree with throwing out those 50 cards. If you recall where you met them or something in common with them, everyone is looking for new authentic connections. Send an authentic LinkedIn intro. Absolutely. As soon as you get the card and you send a LinkedIn intro, you better have a message in that intro. If you've got cards on your desk and you have a process that you use and a process that you built, then absolutely keep them. 95% of people that have cards on their desk have them just to have them. So I'm saying, depending on your process, you might want to kind of take a look to see if, have I built relationships with those people? Have they been in my circle? Can I benefit them in some way? You know, start looking at those cards more intentionally. Oh God, I'm spinning. Patty, never ask a question you can't answer. Very true. Very, very true. Any other questions, folks? Just start. Is it happy hour? Can we start drinking? Just kidding. That's unprofessional. Grace is gonna fire me. Gracie, can I go to the next person? I'm super pumped. Well, the Q&A is done. How often do I network weekly? Oh, great. Oh, that. Good. Questions. Okay. Instead of ending with let me know if you'd like to chat, what are the best phrases to lead to the next step? At the end of the conversation, great question, Lisa. At the end of the conversation, you want to actively listen and start asking questions. So by the time you follow up, it's not like, how can I help you? It's more of, would this be a good introduction? So it's kind of already deducing in your head how you can help them. So you kind of want to come into the conversation hot, right? So you want to do your research on the person. Doesn't have to be a full half hour. It can be 10 minutes just to kind of figure out what their jam is, and everybody's online. But also come to every networking conversation with and I say generic, but like with a resource. Like, hey, there's this great webinar on sales that I think you'd really like, or here's a great resource that I found of 365 useful tools to help build your network, or that could help you build your business. Have a few of these little nuggets of shareable items, so that way, if you're still struggling to figure out that you can make an intro, you're still able to provide value that's beneficial. So start collecting some helpful tools so you can share with people that, again, ultimately will help them, even if you can't give them an intro. How often do you network weekly? Okay, so this is a great question. So networking activity is the same as networking. So networking activity kind of gets broken down into LinkedIn activity, making introduction phone calls, providing value on LinkedIn. So because I do this for a living, I do this 24/7. However, you really want to at least, again, it's different for everybody, especially if you have a different process, and power networkers have their own process. They just talk to Patty. But I personally would do an hour a day on something. Whether it's, Chell, you do so much, you talk to people every day on your program, and then you also do 11 o'clock, like a free webinar every day at 11 o'clock. That's a networking activity. You're providing value in some way, you're answering questions, and you are a subject matter expert in your field. So you're educating. That's a networking activity. What I would implore you guys to do is look at the $80 method. And that takes a long ass time. Like, networking can be a full-time job. You want to break every day down into a specific micro goal. So whether it's, I want to call 5 people from my past that I haven't spoken to in forever and see how they're doing. Like, make these micro goals. It doesn't have to be an incredible amount of people. Oh God, I'm sweating. Thanks, Sherry. Another question is Michelle, how often do you suggest address messages and people that are prospecting you when your intention is to network. Oh, how do you suggest to address messages? Jesus, apparently I've started drinking. How do you suggest to address that? Honestly, it's because you know how to network properly, Michelle, because I know you very well. It's important to recognize that not everybody understands the value of networking. It's not your job to educate them on best practices, but lead them and guide them into the right statement. So if they're coming at you with like, I want to sell you something, just say, look, I'd love to talk to you, but please note that this is an introduction call. I want to learn about your business and I want to get to know you because you're now a connection on LinkedIn. If they come at you hard and fast, and they have no, no respect for your time, then that's just not a connection you should make and you should maintain. And that happens. I mean, 9 times out of 10, sometimes it's a great connection and you get the one weirdo that wants you to marry them and send them pictures of your feet. So it's just a weird dynamic.